Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Pastor Darrell from the Quest in Galesburg, Illinois. Glad to have you with us again this morning. Trying to figure out how to even get started with this today. I was having a conversation with somebody about a week or so ago, and pardon me, I'm about to drop my camera. I'm on the road right now and don't have my equipment that I normally have, but anyway, I had this conversation with somebody, and they were talking about some issues, and here's why I'm struggling, because I don't want to go into personal details, but some of the things they said, and I said, there's a difference between knowing about God and knowing God. And the person said, are you saying I don't know God? And I said, well, I really don't know. I said, I'm not going to try to judge you. And they got kind of mad, telling me I can't judge them, but that's neither here nor there. And I told them, I said, let me tell you a story, and I want to share that story with you today. I read this a few years ago, and I've kept it in my files. It says at the end of a play, there was an actor, a very famous actor, and at the end, the audience called for an encore, wanted him to come back out on a stage, and he did. And when he came out, he began to very eloquently recite the 23rd Psalm. And as the audience watched him, they were just kind of spellbound. And at the end, they just erupted in applause. And just, he was taking bows. And as he looked to the corner of his eye, he saw his old retired pastor sitting there. And he waved at him, and then he waved for him to join him on the stage, and he introduced him to the crowd, and he said, would you like to say something to the people? To his surprise, and probably to the surprise of everybody in that room, that old pastor began to recite the very same 23rd Psalm. As he recited it, the audience was just absolutely silent. At the end of it, it was silent for several seconds, and then you could hear tears and sobbing, and people were wiping tears from their eyes. At that point, the actor walked back up, put his arm around his old pastor, and he said, the difference is this man knows the shepherd. I know the psalm. There's a world of difference between knowing what the Bible says, knowing how to do the Christian things, and actually having a personal relationship with God. I'm reminded, some of you who attended Lee University will know this man very well, but I studied under a man named Charles Beach, and Dr. Beach was just one of the most astonishing guys I've ever met in my life. He was not a credentialed minister, but he probably led more souls to Christ than most pastors would ever do in their life. He was just, for lack of better terms, he was absolutely entrenched in the idea that every moment had to be spent winning souls. When he was taking lunch, very seldom could you get him to go sit down somewhere and eat. He would take a sandwich with him, and he would go out to the park or somewhere to try to witness to somebody and share Christ with them. One particular day, though, I did get to sit down with him at lunch at in the student center there on the campus, and I got to asking a couple of questions. As I spoke with him, I will never forget the response he gave me. He told me, I asked him, what do you think is the most important aspect of your study habits, of how you spend time with God? He told me that he attributed everything in his life to one habit, and that was he spent an hour alone with God each day. I thought that was kind of odd, to be honest, because I thought, well, I pray and I read my Bible. And as a matter of fact, I commented something to that effect. Charles Beach looked at me and he said, I often have my Bible with me, but I don't always read it. He said, it will be sitting in my lap or laying next to me as I lay on the floor. He said, I don't often say a lot as I spend time with God. He said, I just listen to hear what God is saying. That taught me something. It took me a little while as I got to know Dr. Beach, and I went with him many times as he would go witnessing stuff. You see, Paul wrote in Philippians 3:10 that I might know him in the power of his resurrection, excuse me, and in the fellowship of his sufferings. My question this morning is, how well do you know God? See, Dr. Beach taught me, Charles Beach taught me, that it was not about knowing the religious ins and outs. It wasn't about how much doctrine you knew. It was about how well do you know God. And he said something that I have never forgotten. We were actually on our way up to a jail in Polk County, Tennessee. And he slapped me on the leg, and he said, Daryl, is that knowing God is not what you say. Knowing God is what you do. Let me leave that thought with you today. Knowing God is not what you say. Knowing God is what you do. I hope that helps somebody. If you have comments, questions, feel free to message me, call me. God bless you. Hope you have a wonderful day in the Lord.